Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to another aesthetic imaging video tutorial. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at how we're going to create this Aurora Borealis. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Aurora Borealis, at this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your computer? And to that, I say, yes. I had to do that bit. I had to do it. All right, so without any further delay, let's get started. All right, so let's get started with this. First thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we're in 32 bits per channel, and we can get to that by Alt-clicking on this. So it gets to 32 bits per channel. So let's create a new composition. All right, so we're going to call this main comp. All right, main comp. We're going to make this 1920 by 1080. Frame rate 23.976. Whatever frame rate you want to work in is fine, but we're going to be doing 23.976. And we're going to change the duration to 30 seconds. All right, hit OK. All right, so we got our new composition. So let's create a new solid. And we're going to call this Fractal Noise. 1920 by 1080. Black. I mean, it doesn't really matter what color it is, and we can just hit OK. So now what we're going to do, we're going to click on Effects and Presets. We're going to type in Fractal Noise, and it's under Noise and Grain Fractal Noise. If you would like to learn more about fractal noise, you can check out our other 3 tutorials, the many uses of fractal noise. All right, so first thing we're going to start off, we're going to take the fractal type, and we're going to change that to Dynamic Progressive. And we're also going to check off or check on invert. So we get this fanciness. And we're just going to bump up the contrast a little bit. Let's see, something like this maybe. And let's turn down the brightness. Maybe something like that. Maybe turn up the contrast even more. There we go. About 175, maybe minus 27. All right, and next step, we're going to go into Transform. We're going to open that up, and we're going to uncheck Uniform Scaling. And we're going to bump up our width by a lot. Yeah, something like that. And the height, let's bring that down just a little bit. Something like that. All right, so the last thing we're going to change on this is we're going to click on, I almost said elevation, evolution. We're going to Alt-click on that, and down here we're going to type times 200. And I like to put a semicolon at the end. It's not really necessary, but I just like to do that, especially when you have more than multiple lines. This is the kind of the signifier to After Effects is, hey, we're starting a new line of code. And that's basically what these expressions are. It's just code for After Effects to read. Anyway, we'll get into that in a future episode. All right, so you can either just click off of it, or if you have it selected and you have a keyboard with a number pad, you can hit the Enter key that is on the number pad. That will get out of that. All right, so let's play this back. All right, so let's play this back real quick. And let's save ourselves some time. Let's just put it on half. So now we have this wacky little thing going on here. Looks pretty trippy, man. All right, so now that we have this is going to be the base for our Aurora Borealis. So now we're going to go up to here, and we're going to select our rectangle tool. Maybe zoom out a little bit. I was using the middle mouse wheel to scroll in and out. And we're going to make a nice little thin line here. Hit V on the keyboard so that you can move the mask, and we'll just move it down just a little bit. And we're going to hit F on the keyboard to change the mask feather, and we're just going to bump that up to about 100, 110. So now we have this. Just a little line of undulating brightness and darkness. but Aurora Borealis, it is not. All right, so now what we want to do is we can right click and go to New, Adjustment Layer. Or we could do this, Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And we're just going to add that on top. And we're going to hit Enter, and we're going to change the name to Wave Warp. Actually, you know what? We're gonna Wave Effects. All right. And we're going to go up to Effects and Presets, and we're going to type in Wave Warp. Now, we've used this before on our little lava tutorial that we did. All right, so now that we have our Wave Warp up, we're going to bump up the height. Maybe something like that. Bring up the width. Maybe something like that. Maybe even a little bigger. All right, so we got this nice little up and down wave thing going on. But check out what happens when we do this. What happens when we do this? Oh, interesting. Nice. Now we got these weird little waves going this way. I like it. All right, so if we press play here, we got this. It's too much. Too much. It's too much. It's too much. Stop it. All right, so we're going to change the wave speed to maybe 0.3 to slow it down a whole bunch. There we go. That looks a little better. Now, if you notice, we got this weird thing happening here where we get our edges cut off. So for that, we want to change our pinning to all edges. Now we got this weird little flowy thing, and it's attaching to the edges, so we're not losing any information there. Now for this anti-aliasing, we're going to leave it at low for now. When you go to render it out, you might want to change it to high. I don't know. We're going to be adding some other effects to it, so I don't think there is going to be that much of a difference, but hey, you never know. All right, so now we have our wave warp going. And the reason why we're calling this wave effects and not just wave warp is because we're going to add a turbulent displace. And that's going to be under distort, turbulent displace, and we're just going to add that right on top. This is just to give it a little more variety to our waves. All right, so for the amount, we're just going to leave it at 50. But for the size, we're going to turn it down. Something like that. All right, and so for evolution, we're going to alt-click on the stopwatch. And down here, for our expression, we're going to type time times 100, semicolon, exit out of it, boom. All right, so now on top of our wave warp and our turbulent displace, we're going to add a CC radial blur. Just pop that right down on there. And we're going to turn up the amount a pretty good amount. Maybe like 30. And we're going to change the type to fading zoom. All right, so now we have this. And we have this little center piece. Let's change this to half. And if you notice, the further we move this down, the more the blur reaches upwards. So we can take this number here, bring it down until it's pointing just about straight up. So now we have this. And it might be a little dark. Why are you here? You don't belong here. So let's go into our fractal noise. Let's maybe turn up the brightness just a little bit. I don't know. It's actually going to be kind of hard to tell what is going on until we add our glows and color effects. All right. So let's go back to our wave effects here because we actually need to do one more thing to our radial blur. We're going to alt click on the amount here. And we're going to make this kind of like change a value randomly over time. And in order to do that, we're going to type in wiggle parentheses. And we're going to type in the first number, which is the amount of times per second, 1.3. And our second number is the amount that it will change, the value that's going to change. So we're going to do 7. All right. So we're going to put a little semicolon at the end. Again, not really necessary, but we're going to do it. So that way we have not only our side-to-side wave motion, but we also have a kind of verticality animation going on as well. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our wave effects and fractal noise, and we're going to pre-compose them by hitting Shift Command C, or we can go to Layer, Precompose. And we're going to call this Aurora PC for pre-comp. Anytime I'm taking like the base part of the effects and pre-composing it, because from here on out, we're going to build on top of this main thing, I like to add a little PC to make sure that I know that this is the base level of the effect. So we got that, and we're going to hit OK. So now we have a single comp containing our wave effects and fractal noise inside of our main comp. Also, pre-composing things, After Effects really likes when you do that. It says, hey, I appreciate you taking all those effects and putting them on one, so I only have to render one thing at a time instead of rendering 5 different layers. Little tip. So now we have our base thing going on here. As you can see, it's mostly transparent except for where the fractal noise is showing. So what we want to do from here is we're going to create a new solid. We're going to make it black, and we're going to call this Aurora background. Okay, Aurora background, black, same size as the comp, and hit OK. Now what we want to do is just move this to the bottom, boop, and that's it for that. All right, so let's select our Aurora PC, and we're going to add a special effect here called VC Color Vibrance. It's Video Copilot Color Vibrance. It's free from their website, so I'm not cheating by using third party. This is technically third party, but it's free and anybody can have access to it. So boom, add it to your thing. All right, so we're going to make this kind of like a cyan type deal. And I have the exact numbers typed in here. So we'll do 919. Yeah, that's exactly what 191. There we go. And 100 and 100. Hit OK. That's the color we're going with. All right. So it's a little tough to see what's going on here. So we're going to skip a few steps. All right. And we're going to create a new adjustment layer. And we're going to hit enter. And we're going to call this glows. And we're going to add a glow. And that's not how you spell it. There you go. And we want to look for so many different kinds. Stylized glow. And we're going to turn down our threshold. Something like this. And our radius, we want to change to 20. And intensity, we're going to change to 0.1. All right, so let's duplicate our Aurora PC. All right, so let's move this over. And we'll move it to like right there. And under our color vibrance, let's make this a nice little magenta. There we go. That's a nice color. Now let's duplicate that again. And let's move that even further over. All right, so I think I know what's going on here. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, look, there's our Aurora Borealis. That's looking a little better. All right, so your mask affects the brightness of everything. All right, we'll leave it at that. So let's change our third Aurora PC. And we're going to change this kind of like a greenish color. There we go. Now you can move these around even further, you know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to like shorten this comp to maybe like 7 seconds. We're going to go to 7, hit N on the keyboard. So that way, you know, we have a lot of room to just move around our Aurora's Aurora Borealis. Something like that, maybe. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our glow. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to change the radius to be 60, about 3 times the original. Boom. Maybe duplicate that again. Do like a 120. I know that's not 3 times, but 0.05. Let's change that. Maybe mess around with our thresholds. Yeah, this is a trial and error process, you know, getting a look that you want. Yeah. All right, so now we have this. So let's take all these and let's pre-compose them. Shift Command C, pre-compose it, and we're going to call this Aurora Comp. And I like to do comp in all caps. Again, that's just a convenience for finding it later and stuff like that. All right, so one thing we want to do, we can't just have just this, you know. Let's go to our assets, and I have this textures.com underscore skies 0251 underscore 1 underscore m dot jpeg. This is from textures.com. I'm going to leave a link to this image, but it's just a basic image, you know, that won't show up. First off, we need to take our Aurora and set the blending mode to screen. Now let's take this, our little texture here, hit S to scale it up. And we're going to scale it up to the size of the comp about, and we're going to move it into place. Now our Aurora, we can take that and move it up into the sky. All right, so let's maybe go into our Aurora PC and bring this back down just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Maybe something like that. In fact, let's make this easier on ourselves. Let's go to our main comp. Let's click on this window here and then go to View, New Viewer. And then let's go into our Aurora PC. So that way we can see both the what we're doing and the result. There we go. Maybe go back into the main comp and move this up a bit. There we go. And we can just exit out of that. And we have our view back. So this, even at half, is going to take forever for it to play back. Now, one thing we can do that's going to help us a lot is let's go to our Aurora PC. And what we're going to do, we're going to go to Composition, Add to Render Queue. So we're going to click on Lossless here. Let's move this over to the center. All right, so post render action, we're going to change this to import. And then under video output, under channels, let's change this to RGB plus alpha. We need that alpha channel. And under audio, we're going to turn that off. Just turn it off. We don't have any audio. We don't need it. So now we have that. We can select our place to put it. All right, so now we have set where it's going and a name for it. And we're going to call it Aurora PC pre-render underscore toot for tutorial. And we're just going to render it out. And then we'll wait 20 million years for it to happen. So now that we have that rendered out, we'll see that we have our Aurora PC pre-render toot.mov. So what we can do is go into our Aurora comp and select all 3 Aurora PCs. And then we can select this guy in a project window and hit Alt and click and drag over top. And let's move this over to the start here. So now we have replaced our base effect with these video files. And it's going to be a lot quicker to render out or to watch back. Now, in this case, like there's not anything that we're going to add or change to this scene. But maybe you have other stuff that you need to add, other effects, what have you. And this will really help you out in just making things a little bit easier for you and your computer. All right, and with that, that's the end of this tutorial. Again, if you want the project files to follow along, excluding this sky image, unfortunately I can't give you that. You'll have to download it, link in the description. You can go to our Gumroad and check that out and download it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.